forward, you are now free to do so. We will be happy to answer them if we can. Don't feel shy, just why don't you just engage in a discussion, because that's one sure way to make this whole thing very lively and mutually very satisfactory.
Let me ask one question. Clarification from this vessel. Now at the moment, 13th Amendment in our Constitution. Now also it is based on 1987 Indulanta Act. Do you believe basically if we amend the Constitution, it will harmfully affect the Indulanta peace when we signed the 1987 Accord, or we have to inform Mr. Gunasekara to our counterpartner and then we go for the amendment?
I don't think that the Indians inform us of any legislation. And where the Indulanta Accord is concerned, India agreed on it. India regulated. But India was right by the accord to disarm all terrorists within 5 days. They were expected to disarm terrorists within 5 days. They were heard about. But it has taken several years since then for our troops to disarm terrorists. And so, I don't think that the Indulanta Accord exists today. They were repudiated by the Indians themselves. So the question of antagonizing India or apprising them does not exist. India does not consult us or tell us about their pending legislation. Why should we tell them? Free and independent country, as free and independent as India. And we must act as such, without fear or favor.
Against with the 13th Amendment, you don't agree with it. That's what the idea I got. And I would like to ask you about your opinion on the Vinakuma project. Now, it was a big problem, made a big problem in the country a few months back, and I feel like there is a connection between the 13th Amendment, giving these provincial councils the powers to do constructions and all through the Vinakuma project. I would like to know your opinion on the Vinakuma projects.
I don't know, I can't really tell you much about the Vinakuma project. Although I appeared in that case, I must confess I can't recall the nuts and bolts of that bill. All I can say is that as far as provincial councils are concerned, I am against the provincial councils and against the amendment. Just make no mistake about it. I have been opposed to them from 1987 onwards, and it's not something new. I have started in the PC elections of the North. It is something, the policy I have been espousing throughout my life, from the time this provincial council was first mooted. Now, with regard to the provincial councils, my simple point is this: what is the need for those provincial councils? What is the need for giving Vigneswaran certain powers in the North? Now, he is a good man. an excellent judge. And I would say that he was a judge who I would have preferred to before than many have come across. But as a politician and chief minister, I would not like him. And I see no reason why he or any provincial politician should be given a kind of power, particularly when they are selected not by the people but selected by their party leadership. It was Sambandhan who selected Vimeshwaran, not the people of Jaffna, not the people of Savakacheri, not the people of any part of the peninsula or the north or the Vanni. Indeed, I think it's very unlikely that any person other than a Veldala person would have wanted Vigneshwaran. Vigneshwaran, as you know, hails from Manipal, which is the mecca of Veldala supremacy. And it is impossible to conceive of him being wanted by any non-Veldala person in the north.
I'd like to add one more point to what Mr. Gunasekara said, and I think that is relevant in the question that you pointed at us. Namely, that in the Constitution, if one single provincial council does not accept a law passed by Parliament, let us say it's the Divine Agreement, that is not accepted by any one single provincial council, then for that area, for example, let us say that it is North Central Province or Northwestern Province or Northern Province, the provincial council can have a separate law for that part of the country. In other words, you will be having two sets of laws, two competing sets of laws in the same country for two different districts. Now, the question is this. You might ask, well, if one provincial council refuses, then do they not have the right to have a different law? But in this country where majority rule is the predominant factor in democracy, I think if you want to have a different set of rules for one particular council or for several, it should not be the decision of one provincial council. It should be the decision of majority of the provincial councils. Because the danger is this will create once again a separate state. Now if you look at the whole Indo-Sri Lanka Pact, which gave rise to the 13th Amendment, the areas that are now considered to be somewhat obnoxious, or greatly obnoxious, I would say, the police powers, the land powers, the merger and the question of these legislative powers that the provincial councils have of a peculiar nature, those are all creations that were made to get the LTT into the democratic framework. They were hopeful that they would become, they would enter the Northeastern Provincial Council. That did not work because Pagapura didn't accept it. Now we don't have a LTT, we don't have terrorism. India's reasons for wanting this 13th Amendment, in my opinion, is to, one of the reasons was to attract the LTT into the democratic framework if possible. Now that is not there, I think it is very dangerous to have that kind of provision, as you have mentioned, the Dividend Contract, where one particular state can have a different law altogether.
Good evening, sir. As a law student of the law faculty in KDU, I would like to ask a question pertaining to the current status quo of the legal education within the ordinary citizens in Sri Lanka. According to my point of view, sir, the judicial activism should not be limited to the courthouse. The people of the society should feel that there is a rule of law within the society. It is said to be law of the people, by the people, for the people, but we cannot see that there is interaction between the people and the law, or the people and the judiciary is in very poor level. Whereas the people have no trust on law anymore. So no point in having a theoretical aspects of the rule of law, due process, check and balance system, mediation and conciliation boards. If the crime rates of the country is increasing day by day, of the prisoners of the prison is increasing day by day, while wasting the national money. So sir, I would like to know your comments, may I know your comments with regard to the regulating the legal education in Sri Lanka in terms of rule of law, since the law is a code of conduct which particular society has chosen to comply with. Thank you, sir.
thing that you perhaps threw up. And that is, you are simply saying, what is the earthly use of all these laws with the chaos that we see around us? That's what you are saying. Now, if I was to put it in other words, you are saying, isn't there a disconnect between all these complicated laws and ordinary human being? Now, remember that the courts, the whole legal system is a creation of the people. All these laws would be dead laws. I always say this. All these laws would be dead laws if people don't give life to those laws. In other words, what I am saying, I am willing to go so far as to say that I am willing to challenge the community on this. How many of us break all the laws day in and day out? Somebody recently said, sir, the laws are only for the law abiding. The laws are not meant for people who are lawless. They don't get a damn, he said. That's the way it is. Right? Look at it from day one. From the day a child, I'm just giving you an example. Recently I made a speech on abuses of laws, and this is what how I analyze. Say a child is born, and by about 3 years of age, you start registering him in a wrong address. I'll take you through life if you want to tell you what the community does with laws. You start registering him at a wrong address 1 mile away from a famous school. Then you start doing all kinds of things, forging telephone bills, voters registers, all kinds of things to get the child into school. Right? Then you put this fellow into school. Then after about 2 years, you start actually giving gifts to the teachers, to get him into the percussion band, cricket team, all kinds of things. Then you start bribing the school coach to get him into cricket. Then you start doing all kinds. Then you get your father, mother, uncle, auntie to start getting and canvassing your case in the school. Cadet, school prefect, all the discipline you start. Right? Now I'm just trying to tell you what people do. And then that same corruption is carried through to the community. When the child finishes there, the child grows up in that value system. And today parents are willing to lavish anything on children. Nothing is taught at home. Children are not taught wrong and right at home. Right? Nobody is there to correct them. They go out with the same value systems to the community and start doing the same thing in life. They are the ones who grow up to be our leaders also. Remember that. So where should this soul searching really start? All I'm saying is, all these, you're right, these fancy laws, all these fantastic laws and systems, yeah, then, as Honorable AG says, when they die, their children forge their last wills also. So you can see, where does the problem then lie? Yeah. Where does the problem then lie? You know, it's not the lawmakers. The lawmakers will make laws. But who gives life to that law? The courts will implement the law. Blindly, rightly or wrongly, they will implement the law. But all I'm saying is I'm saying that we have to put the ball back. This very criticism the community makes of the systems is a criticism of themselves. That is the disconnect that we have. How many papers are leaked from government institutions on in examinations? University, law school, law faculty, law college, you name it. Right? How many people start, canvassing their marks with all kinds of people? Now these are complaints I get on a daily basis. Yeah. I'm told that it doesn't happen in the KD. Thank God for that. So all I'm saying is this whole problem that the laws are fine. The laws are fine. There is nothing wrong with the laws. But the whole problem is how we live by it. So all I'm saying, that's why I said that this whole reform also It can't be done only with lawyers and judges and people. We just have to, we must be all be sensitive. In other words, we all have to try and do the right thing. And that's not, I'm not too sure that's altogether difficult, no. But by and large, to do the right thing. Now, with regard to legal education, I think what you wanted to know was the position with regard to legal education. The position of legal education is pretty simple. You probably know that you have to be a graduate, a law graduate, or perhaps an attorney at law, practice law in this country. And that's the basic qualification that one needs. And there is no, I don't think there is a major change in that at all. And as time goes on, many institutions will rank pari passu with all other institutions, and perhaps I can see a very bright future for legal education, because the kind of input you are getting today in these institutions, in all the institutes of higher learning, is much better than perhaps what we were privy to. And of course, the older generation will always say that what is being done new is not as good as what that went on with them. But that generation gap will always be there, whether it is in 2013, if the same peak will perhaps carry on. But what we really need to do, what we need to be sensitive to, is that we need to start inculcating certain values in the legal system itself and live by it. Now look at the legal profession itself, since we are all lawyers and aspire lawyers to be. How much of people criticize the legal system still? Ane sir, man ante gasto kiyala mahathya kiwa habe mahathya aave na. Enata ade me pattara pe hikka mahathya hita anik pattara. Oh, ane mahathya mama me nikan me batal liyanne ko balanakoda mage nanda mata බූදලේ මගේ ගන් කැලේ ගියා. එන්න ඔය වගේ දේවල් අපි හැමදාම අහන්නේ නිරන්තරයෙන්. ඉතින් now so you can see what is going on. So the kind of dishonesty, the corruption, the abuse. So I suppose that comes from human frailty. That is the weaknesses in the human being who is a lawyer. But I don't think there's anything really wrong with the legal system. In the sense, of course, some laws may be too old, some laws that need to be refined, some laws need to be amended. So that process will go on. I'm sure the next generation will see far better things to be done with the law than what we are seeing today. But all that we can do is to set the stage and let the law evolve in a way that it will be beneficial to the community as of that time. Now we can't go and apply English law in Uduguru Tiruppu or in Bagamoda. I was telling Dr. Silva that recently I went and opened a courthouse in Bagamoda. Actually, I was shocked that we opened a courthouse in Bagamoda. Bagamoda is such a beautiful, simple place. All that it needs is some money. It's meaningless. So that is what we must be sensitive to. I hope that answers your question. The question is very wide. But by and large, all I am saying is that these laws, you can frame the laws on a wall. Anytime you read books, we give all the law. But the fact of the matter is whether we are willing to abide by those and live by those. But having said that, can I say also this? You see, the legal system always, you have to have bad guys to know who the good guys are. Even in a film, if you don't have a villain, you won't know who the good villain is. But with all the chaos around us, I don't think we are doing altogether not too badly. In the sense, we are managing to keep this whole fabric, this whole system in place with all the drudgery and the crazy things that are happening around us. So that is something to perhaps speak for, and that's because there's a lot of good things done. Remember that there are millions of people doing good things every day, but what is focused is on the matters that are the bad ones. This country is not so bad as what the media makes it out to be. I can assure you that much. If you want to fill a paper, of course, then that's what you must say. But this country is not that. There are thousands and millions of people who do good things every day. And it is in that confidence, I say, that we have a great future. Yes.
My question, well, it's to all of the panel. What is going on currently in terms of regional integration, the region, the SARC region, for instance, to make your legal infrastructure regionally stronger and more relevant to yourselves? Because, you see certain subjects like corruption, money laundering, human trafficking, where aspects of law enforcement have been outsourced to this region rather than the region create their own priorities. So I'm just wondering whether there is an infrastructure for closer and enhanced regional cooperation in which there are avenues of communication and exchange of experiences. For instance, I think one of your speakers said, well, India has this perception and we're separate, but actually regional security requires good relations with India, otherwise Sri Lanka can be exploited by all sorts of other people who might choose to maraud these oceans.
I hope the others in the panel probably won't say what I'm trying to say. As far as the SARC region is concerned, I can tell you, I've just returned a month ago from the SARC region conference in Bhutan. Now, one of the points I made there that every year we have a kind of lip service to all those pledges that we make, and we don't seem to probably really start doing something meaningful within a region for regional cooperation. Now, but having said that, there is a lot of legal cooperation on the economic front with regard to trade, with regard to bilateral trade. With regard to the law, I can tell you we have a lot of mutual assistance treaties between every country in the SARC region. I'm just talking of regionally the SARC countries. The SARC countries, we have a lot of mutual assistance. We have a lot of training that we do of our judges. We regularly have exchanges of judges, of lawyers, of law students. We place them in the different training schools, and a lot of money is spent. We have a common strategy against terrorism, money laundering, financial transactions, and bilateral trade. So regionally, there is a lot of cooperation between the SARC countries. But I suppose it can be lifted to a level which is far more efficient than what it is today. Of course, in the region, we are small countries, with India being the kind of the predominance of India and perhaps Pakistan on one side, but with its little problems that it has, I hope it actually is restored to what it was long years ago. But having said that, the most of the assistance is actually really from India, and India actually offers itself as a very large landmass, as you know, and which gives us a lot of opportunity, even in terms of trade. It's a huge opportunity. But in terms of the law, perhaps we share a common tradition because we are a common law country like Indians. Their laws are very similar to ours, and there is a lot of, for example, we had 30 judges which just returned yesterday on training in Bhopal, and that's the continuous training that we do. Their judges come here, so and there is mutual assistance between two countries for extradition of people, criminals, and so on and so forth. So that actually goes on in a large way. There is regional cooperation, but that can be stepped up, and there is a lot of room for improvement.
My question is about Senior Counsel Mr. Govinda Asri. This is with regard to the thing that you talked on the rule of law. Rule of law, as we all know, that this is not a concept which is originated in Sri Lanka or in these colonial countries which were colonized. So it came from British, from the Parliament, Westminster system to this rule of law. All the concepts came from UK. So my first question is, if these concepts came from Western, as you call it, NATO countries, then do we need to follow these concepts as it is, ultimate meaning of the word, as it is